Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode one of the Tide Hoops History Summer Podcast Series. We are excited to be the newest member of the Crimson Crossover family of podcasts, and we're looking forward to even more episodes this summer where we talk about a lot of things about the history and tradition, former players, former coaches about Alabama basketball. So I do want to admit that when we first started thinking about doing these summer podcasts, there was only one person that we wanted to invite as our very first guest, and that's former head coach Wimp Sanderson. So I am very excited that Coach has agreed to join us on this one. For those that may be not familiar, the newer generation or younger generation of fans, Coach Sanderson spent 32 years at Alabama, the first 20 years as an assistant to Coach Riley and I believe Coach Newton, and then he became the head coach in 1980. And he was the head coach for 12 years. And during that 12 years, he had such a very successful run. And we'll get to a lot of those topics and a lot of those memories later in this meeting. But again, Coach, I want to thank you for taking time to join us. I can't tell you how much of an honor. And again, I can't thank you enough for joining us.
Well, I'm glad to do it. I have a lot of respect for you and what you've done for trying to put Alabama basketball in the past and the present and the future on networks and on iPads and on telephones and on everything electronic. So I appreciate very happy to try to be on answering questions you might want to ask or talk about the past. I was there a long time, and I think I know a little bit about what went on.
So there's a lot I kind of want to dig into. So I know we blocked out a decent amount of time, but one of the things I wanted to let you know is with the season ending, I finally set aside time to read your book, the one that we were helping you sell a few copies of. I enjoyed it immensely. I literally sat down Saturday night. I read half the book Saturday night before I went to bed, and then Sunday afternoon I finished the other half because one, I've been wanting to read it for a while, and two, I wanted to have more insight in history because I like to be thorough. So I had a lot of questions after I read it. I kind of wanted to just go back to the very beginning, Coach. I know you were originally from North Alabama in Florence. I know, unfortunately, you lost your dad at an early age, so it was you and your mother. And like most people who have achieved great success in their career, it came with adversity growing up. So I was just wondering if maybe you could take us back to what it was like growing up as a 6-year-old without a father, with your mom, and what you went through there in Florence those first maybe 10, 15 years.
Well, I had a great mother, and of course, my dad did die at 6, and it was unfortunate and something that sometimes you have a hard time overcoming. But she did a great job with me, and I was one of these kids that stayed out of trouble. I never did really do anything as I grew up and became a high school player, and I got interested in basketball and a lot of people that played the game, and we went to a lot of different places to play with the North Alabama, which is Florence State back then, and played. We go over to Coffee and play. We go to the community center in Sheffield and play. We go around the corner. We played on a dirt field and played there quite a bit with people. So basketball became my interest. I was, fairly decent in it and getting better. And just, I never really did anything but I didn't date much at all. And I just stayed busy with basketball, and I enjoyed it.
So in your book, one of the things that I read about, I wanted to ask, how long did the piano lessons actually last when you were a child?
Not very long. My mother wanted me to did a couple of things as mothers do. And one of them, she thought that it would be nice for me to learn to play piano. And it was in North Florence. I lived in Florence. And it was a lot. I didn't have a car. We didn't have a car. I was too young. I don't think I could even drive. Maybe I could. I can't remember. But we'd have to walk out there. And the thing that the teacher told me was that I would have to practice all week before I came back to see if I had made any progress. Unfortunate practice wasn't, and being on the piano was not one of my favorite things to do. I didn't really know how to practice. I didn't practice very well. And finally, I don't know how long I did it, but my mother just finally, she was figured out that she was wasting money for me to try to go out in North Florence and learn piano lessons. The other funny thing was I noticed what you said was about my knickers.
Yep.
Knickers, we went to church. My mother would always want me to wear knickers. And I thought knickers were, still do, were a little bit sissy. They were a little bit, you had to wear long socks. And you had to put the knickers on. And I just could not stand to wear knickers. When I go to the store now, at my age and all down through my age, if the bottom of that pant is not a straight bottom, it has a curl in the bottom, I don't buy it because I think the knickers. I won't buy it. I look at the bottom to see if the bottom is a straight-legged bottom. If it's a curl bottom, one that flops on your shoe, I don't buy it. So I couldn't stand knickers, but that was a kind of a funny thing that I had to do that my mother made me do. Outside of that, one of the things, I had some aunts that sort of took care of. My mother worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and that department was the ones that got pensions for the veterans when they came back. And so she was well liked because she wrote letters on behalf of these people. And so she worked, on a regular daily basis from the time the place opened all the way to 5 o'clock. So I had an aunt and an uncle that sort of took care of me, and they let me put a basketball goal in the backyard. And I liked baseball too, and I wasn't very good at it, but I liked it, and so I played a little softball. But we used to play a cork ball, and cork ball is a hard game to play. You have a stick, and the guy has a cork, and he flips it, and you try to hit that cotton picking cork, and it ain't easy. People that are watching this show or listening to this show, try you some cork ball. I know they got all different kinds, and you can't, and you would run the bases, sort of like, when you hit it, but you did wasn't often that you hit it. You can take a cork and put it in your thumb and your finger with the wind blowing and flip it through there. You couldn't hit it. You couldn't hit it a cotton picking week. And yeah, so we played some cork ball, and I would wait at my aunt's house till my mother got off work and then go home. I had an old 40 Ford, and 40 Ford was a convertible. We didn't have any money, and we got that 40 Ford fixed. I wanted to get my driver's license, and I had been washing the car of the guy upstairs over the apartment excuse me, my mother and I lived in, Mr. Purdom. Oh, I remember Mr. Purdom, but I washed Mr. Purdom's car all the time. And so I went to Mr. Purdom one day and I said, Mr. Purdom, I need to borrow your car and get my driver's license. He said, well, I don't mind you getting your driver's license. I'm going to tell you something now. The seat in this car flies up a lot. The front seat flies up a lot. It catches the spring. I said, really? He said, it flies up a lot. You need to be careful. Well, I go down on Pine Street in front of the people that watch this show. They know where Pine Street is and where the everything is down there. So it's time for me to take my driver's license. And I get in, and about the time we started off and went about a block, whack, the thing flew up, and both being the patrolmen flew together. And I said, I'm sorry, sir. I said, I'm sorry. This is not my car. So we drove around again, and the thing popped again. It flopped up again. And so he had me parallel park. And I parallel parked, okay? He said, I want to tell you something, son. I'm going to give you your driver's license, but if you don't get that cotton picking car, that popping with that car, he said, you're going to be in serious trouble with me and all the other patrolmen. I said, yes, sir. I said, I won't be driving this car anymore because it's not my car. But I said, Mr. Purdom, I'll tell Mr. Purdom that we need to get that thing fixed. I said, I think he already knows. Of course, he already knew it. That was he's the one who let me borrow the car. So that was the deal where I got my driver's license with a car where the front seat flipped up real quick.
So let me ask another question about your childhood. So in your book, you talked about playing games of hot tail, which when I first read it, I was like, what? But then when I read the explanation of what it was, it's just a variation on the game that I used to play too. Everyone plays 21, but I also
21's right. 21's right, but it was hot tail. If you were the last one in, you cut the hot tail, and what you did, you shot along the short. And you had to go out on a along the short, the long canted 2, the short canted 1. So you had to go out, and I think it was the more you made, every time you made him, you got to shoot again. I think right then, but you couldn't be at 18 because if you were 18, you couldn't be at 19, 20. You had to go out on a long and a short. If you got on 20, you lost. You could not get on 20. You had to jump 20 and go straight to 21. If you were 18, you had to go out. I think you had to go out on a long. You had to go out. I think I'm telling this right. You had to go out on a long, but you could not go out on number 20. You had to be 21. If you lost, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're going to get to the part that I had no idea about if you lost.
You had to bend down and grab your ankles, and the guys would have 2 throws at you to give you the hot tail. Now, I think if they missed, they wanted to really throw it hard and really bust you good. I think if they missed completely, you got to throw it down. But I can't remember that for sure. But hot tail could burn you up. Now, what they tried to do is they would try to get a young squirt in there who they thought would lose, and he would get the hot tail. So they would say to me after we played, "You want to play a hot tail?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll play some hot tail with you." So they let me for a while shoot grandma. Camp, like what's his name in pro shot that used to shoot all the time. Grandma between your legs.
Yep, underhanded.
And so I started off shooting grandma, but they all encouraged me to come in and play because they thought I was going to be the one to get the hot tail. And so that's what we played.
Well, I see you carried the tradition on with your sons when you were teaching them basketball.
Oh yeah,
and you showed them no mercy based on what was in your book.
I made darn sure that when they shot the ball, I said something funny or did something crazy before they would miss. I said I didn't say anything. I mean, I said I don't care, and they would miss. We're on the side. We have a goal on the concrete on the side of the house. We got a little Volkswagen Bug that's parked on the it's parked on the curb, and we're playing hot tail. I mean, we're playing hot tail. We're playing 20. We're playing 21. I look up, and the Volkswagen is rolling down the hill, and it's fixing to roll over 15th Street in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And if it does, and a car hits it coming that way, I'm a dead goose. And there it rolled. We can't catch it. And it rolls across 15th Street, hits a tree or something, and we were that slowed down that day's hot tail.
Oh my goodness! Now that was the house.
That was a Volkswagen. There's a Volkswagen Bug back then. Now you don't see many bugs.
Yeah, I remember. I remember those. But now that was also when you guys moved into the house that Coach Stallings and Ruth Ann had moved out of when they went to Texas A&M.
Well, we did once, but what we had done, but this was another house after that.
Okay.
Beebs and Beebs is a friend of mine. Coach Stallings, friend of mine. But Coach Stallings and Gene and I went to church together, and they had a house that they rented, and so Gene got a raise or got some money or did something. He's a good speaker, and he checked out. He checked out when I found out he was checking out. I checked in. I called it was at Alberta City,
Ah,
and
okay. Alberta City. All right.
Alberta City, and the problem was that the people next door to us had had some little dogs, and I got dogs now. And I love dogs, but their little dogs would bite, and if you kicked at them, um, the guy that had the little dogs would be all hacked off. So yeah, but I did take Beeb's house, and um, it was funny. One of the funny stories with Beebs, as you know, Beebs had John Mark, who's Down syndrome. Great little kid. I mean, funny kid and cute as he could be, and Down syndrome kid. And I had a child about the same time that he did, and so I got to know John Mark pretty good, and we would have a good time with different people there. And John Mark got to mocking me on the sideline. And so Beebs would say, John Mark Coach Wimp. Show him what Coach Wimp does. And he would throw his hands up in the air, and he'd walk up and down. He'd throw a rag down on the floor, and he'd do all this. The cutest thing you've ever seen in your life. He was the cutest kid in the world. John Mark passed away some time ago. I saw Gene not long ago, but John Mark used to love to mock me on the bench.
that's great. That's a great story. I have a question too. You know, I never realized that Coach Riley was your high school coach at
Yeah,
Coffee. So
right.
now I understand how you ended up at Alabama, because
Yeah,
I know you coached 1 year at Carbon Hill, which
I did.
I know where Carbon Hill's at. I've been to Carbon Hill many times because I'm from Fayette County, but I always wondered how you coached 1 year at Carbon Hill and then you became a graduate assistant at Alabama. But now I know the connection to Coach Riley. I just wanted to, for people who are not familiar with Coach Riley, if maybe you could just give a little perspective on the type of person, the man he was,
Oh
and the
yeah,
coach that he was.
he was a great person. He was a great guy, great high school coach. Went down to Alabama and had the opportunity to recruit. And the reason he was offered the job of recruiting, when Coach Bryant came back, he wanted to find out the person that knew the most coaches in the state of Alabama. And everybody kept saying Hayden Riley knows the most coaches in the state. And so he got Coach Riley to come down there and be assistant in basketball and do football. And Coach Riley did a he played basketball there and was a good basketball coach. He just basketball and football were kind of intermingled with him. So he was really a terrific person. If it hadn't been for Coach Riley, I'd have had no chance. And I've always been so appreciative of him. He was there 12 years as well as coach. When I went to Carbon Hill, two of my former teammates, were also coach at Carbon Hill after I left. Dabbs Ernest and Don Hydorn.
Okay.
And they did after I went there, and we had a good team. Boy, we were really good. And we ended up 25-4. We got beat in chance to go to the state tournament, but I had Frank Nix, who was a great praise pass. In fact, I had a reunion of my team, 9 or 10 players we had. We've already lost 4 or 5 of them by death. And I was real young. I was 20, 21. I was at the state coaching clinic in Tuscaloosa. You had a coaching clinic, and all the coaches came. I couldn't find a job. And I couldn't find a job because I had not played football. And every time they look at for a basketball coach, they wanted somebody that could be an assistant football coach. Well, I didn't qualify for that. So I was having a hard time. I was with a guy named Burl Whitson, who was ended up getting a job at Decatur and a principal there. And So we were down there, and I was looking like crazy. I couldn't find a job. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a child, and I'm thinking, I don't think I'm going to get a job. I didn't play any football. There was a notice. I found out as I was down there that the principal of Carbon Hill had resigned, and that the basketball coach named Hollis Thompson, who was in North Alabama prior to me, he was older than me, was going to go from basketball coach to principal, and the basketball job was going to be open. So I called Hollis and asked him if I could have a shot at it. And I don't know all what happened, but anyway, I got that job that way, and we had a terrific team. That didn't have anything to do with me going coffee. Anyway, Coach Riley told me that year there's a chance Eugene Lambert, the head coach at Alabama, who's a very good basketball coach, is going to leave. I can't remember if he left to take another job, go back to Memphis or what, but he was going to leave. He said, if he leaves, I think I've got a chance to get the job. If I do, I want you to come down there and help us. He wasn't going to give me no big time assistant job. He already had it, right then. So I kind of just waited in the background to see if anything was going to happen. And lo and behold, I found out that through checking on it and so forth, and he called me, I think, told me to come down there, and I went down there and visited with him, and he said, I can pay your way through school, let you get your master's, and I can give you $175 a month, and Annette can get a job. We can get Annette a job if you want to do it. Well, I said, yeah, I'll do it. I ain't worried about no cotton picking money. So we have got an apartment behind Carbon Hill, in a basement of a duplex, and the principal lived upstairs, and we lived in the bottom basement. In our house, we had a $5 stove, a $10 refrigerator, and we had orange crates to keep our underwear and our stuff in, underwear and socks. And we had about 6 orange crates. For a bedside table, we had found a spool that was wrapped around that's around cord around. I guess it was electrical spool. We got it, and we brought it home and turned it over, and it made a great bedside table. And so we didn't have anything. We had a $5 stove, $5 refrigerator. It is off. So we had one child. So I went down there for about 2 weeks before Annette and Jim got there, and I was there, whatever, a new daddy, so to speak. So it came time that night, that day when she got there, that next morning, for me to heat the bottle and feed the baby. So I go in and I get the bottle, and I put the bottle. I'm pretty sleepy. I get the bottle, and I put the bottle in a pan of water, and I put it on a gas stove. Didn't have electricity, and I went over and I sat down to take me just a short nap while that bottle was getting ready to feed Jim. I was there about 10 or 15 minutes. I looked up. I was heating the ketchup bottle.
Oh no! You were sleepy. You were really sleepy.
The cotton picking ketchup bottle. So anyway, I stayed there a year. It came time for us to leave. We didn't have any money, but we found a truck that would put all our belongings on this truck. And I went, and we found some apartments that were right next door where Coleman Coliseum is today, right by the law school over there. I don't know if the law school is over there now or not, but there was a bunch of barracks over there, or just one barrack after another for students and their wives. And so I found a barracks over there. So I went back, and we got this guy to come, and when we were taking all the stuff out, we had one of those refrigerators with a top on it, a big top on it. You're too young to know what that would look like. The top falls off and
Oh,
goes down in the woods. They said I said forget the cotton picking top. I said it didn't cost me $5. I said we
oh,
ain't going after that thing. So we put all our stuff in there, which is junk. I mean El Junko. We got ropes. We roped all our stuff around there. And so off we go. We get down there, the guy doesn't show up. He ain't there. So he ain't got no phone. I'm trying to find the guy. I don't know what to do. He'd got mixed up and couldn't find his way to Tuscaloosa.
oh.
With all our clothes, with all of our stuff. There were no clothes to it. So, but we finally got him there. And Michael, you talk about hot.
Oh,
You talk about hot with a new baby.
oh no.
It was hotter than blue blazes. I had an air conditioner, a window unit air conditioner that I'd brought from Carbon Hill. And I don't know anything about electricity much. And I told Annie, I said, I'm going to take this air conditioner and I'm going to put it in, plug it in. I said, but we're dying. Jim's burning up back in that back room. We can't stand it. So I put that thing in. I work and work and work and work to get that thing up in the window. It's a window unit. And I get it all fixed and I'm ready to go with it. And I plug it in. It won't work. It's a 110 and the units are down are 220.
Oh no. Oh no.
The cotton picking units are 220. I mean, I'm telling you stories I ain't never told anybody. It's 220. And at the end of the thing's 110 and ain't no good.
No, it's not.
No,
Oh,
and you can't do anything about it.
so you had to run out and get an air conditioning
Oh, I
unit.
had to go get an air conditioner. I ain't no money to start with. So
Oh,
I had a little money and I think I don't know what I did, but I got rid of that 110 and bought in that 220. So, and it was hot as blue blazes. And you light a match and the whole thing going there. So that was my beginning of going to Alabama.
well, now I know. So, as you said, Coach Riley was there for about 12 years. You were one of his most trusted assistants. You were a graduate assistant, I guess, for the 1 year, and then you became a full-time assistant.
Yeah.
And I know during that time you recruited a lot of good players. I know Coach Riley, as far as the success on the court, wins and losses, you had good years, some down years, maybe
Yeah.
some issues with consistency like that. But
Yeah.
I know
Sure.
you thought a lot of I know you thought a lot about or a lot of Coach Riley
Yeah, I
and
did.
the opportunity that he gave you during that period. Um, I'm trying to remember, was it at the end of Coach Riley or actually the beginning of Coach Newton when the basketball team also started with the integration and recruiting the first African American players?
Well, Coach Newton came down there for a year. Coach Newton had played basketball at Kentucky when Coach Bryant was the football coach. So there was a connection there.
Okay.
Here's something else some people don't realize. Frank Rose was the president of Transylvania College.
Oh,
Coach Newton coached at Transylvania College. Guess what? Rose was the president of the University of Alabama. So
okay.
it was Lock City.
Okay.
It was Lock City. He's going, if he could get the job. So he called Coach Bryant, and through Frank Rose and Coach Bryant, they worked it out for Coach Newton to get the job because Frank Rose was president. Coach Bryant was the AD, and so they got. So he stayed there a year, and the phone off. I'm sorry. Um, so when he did that, he got the job as the head coach. And so when that was going on there, and I can't remember. We had Leif Carlson was the head assistant coach. Leif Carlson had played at Michigan State for the great coach at Michigan State. I can't think of his name, but he was terrific coach. I can't remember his name, but he was very good. But Leif Carlson.
The only one I can think of was Judd Heathcote, but that's probably before him.
No, it was before Judd.
Okay.
It was before Judd. But he worked at Michigan State and was very good, very learned about basketball. So he helped a lot. He didn't recruit much. And so Coach Newton had been there for a year and working on his doctorate, and he left. So he had been to Alabama when the job came open. He'd already been there for a year and gone back to Transylvania. He dropped away from Transylvania for a year and let somebody else coach. So he went back there and coached. And then after that, that was okay. And he came in, Coach Newton did, and we started having good teams, and I was in charge of recruiting. And we were very fortunate. There were a lot of good players in the state of Alabama.
Yep.
Gene Bartow, Alabama, UAB had decided to start athletics. Coach Bryant got mad. And Coach Bryant said that the president, he didn't like it because the board of trustees approved it. And he said, we're not going to play him. We're not going, they're going to try to get some of the football players that we want at UAB, at Alabama. We're not going to play him in anything. And I said, fine, excuse me, I don't want to play him anyway. So it was a situation where if I beat him, I was supposed to. If I lose to him, I'm in bad trouble. So
right.
it's a no win. So yep. Coach Bryant said no. Said no. And so we had a pretty much confab and fuss as the newspapers just absolutely escalated it and really blew it into a big deal. Gene and I, and Sonny. Sonny was getting at Auburn, and I was at Auburn, and he was okay there, and I was a new guy there that nobody really wanted. Nobody wanted me at Alabama. Coach Bryant didn't want basketball. He hired Wimp. Wimp had never been a head coach in college. It's a bad mistake. They just showed they don't want any basketball there. So I didn't. Nobody wanted me. It was zero. So Bartow, the basketball job came open at UAB when they decided to start sports. The athletic director of the board of trustees calls UCLA and says to Gene Bartow, can you give me some recommendations for the head basketball coach here at UAB? And it come down exactly like this. He said, yeah, I can give you some of me. He said,
he just wanted out of UCLA.
Yeah, yes. Well, UCLA, Coach Wooden was still keeping the camp. And the camp money was big money. And so when that happened, that's how they hired Gene Bartow. So Gene Bartow comes in with a name. I've got no name. Sonny's coached several places. He's done okay. He's got a better name than I do. So now we're off to the races to get the best players in the state of Alabama, and the ones in Birmingham. And there's Enos Watley, and there's Reginald King, and there's Eddie Phillips, and there's his own, and there's T.R. Dunn. There's all kind of players there, all kind of good players there. And but our job was to get them. Now, when you go into the homes with the coaches, the name coach is Gene Bartow. The no-name coaches are Sonny and I, especially me, because I had not been a head coach. So there we go, and we get into some really big stinks. And in fact, Sonny and I, we started writing articles. I've got some of those articles, by the way, that I wrote. I'd love you to read them. And I was a writer for the Birmingham paper for a while. And
I remember that.
Yeah, Bartow tried to write, but I mean, I wrote my own. Sonny had somebody write his, but I wrote my own. I thought they were pretty good, and I'll show them to you sometime. I don't think Gene wrote it, but I wrote my own. So I would get our alums who had I had about 5 or 6 alums in Birmingham who loved basketball. They didn't like UAB. They didn't like Gene. They wanted Alabama to be good. They didn't want to have basketball or football there. And so I would get them to help me go by, not buy them, but just go by and visit with them, say hello to the mother of them, just shoot around, find out the gossip and all that kind of stuff. So I was in charge of that. And without being boastful, I did a good job with it. I got most all of them. I lost one to Houston, Alan Murphy. They came in and beat me on him in the last minute. Too long a story to tell. But the rest of them, we evaluated them good. We took some guys that maybe were just a little bit questionable as far as how good they were, but we stayed right there in the state right there as best we could. When we first started off, CM wanted to go to Kentucky and get some, and we did. We went to Kentucky and we got 3 or 4 good players at Kentucky. And right prior to the minorities coming in, as you wanted to mention, Coach Newton went to Coach Bryant and said, I think we need to start recruiting minorities. I had recruited for a long time, not recruiting minorities. I had recruited Illinois and places like that. So we did that, and hope I'm telling this right. But anyway, he went in there and felt like we needed to recruit some minorities. Pat Dye was the assistant football coach at Alabama for 8 years when I was there. And he was recruiting a kid from Ozark, Alabama, the great running back from Ozark, not Hurricane, but everybody knows that somebody that sees the show will say, I should have thought of it, and I can't think of it. But anyway, he had a great running back at Ozark, Alabama. And we were involved with trying to get good basketball players. The best basketball area, the best basketball school was where Wendell Hudson was, and Wendell Hudson and his group were really good at gone blank, not Carver, but Parker, and Cap Brown was the coach at Parker, and Cap Brown was a well-known coach, but he'd let you come in and watch practice and those kind of things. And I got in there pretty good. I didn't really recruit Wendell as much. I recruited him, but we all kind of worked on him. We had Leon Douglas, who was in Leeton, Alabama.
Yep,
and Leeton
North
is
Alabama.
not very far. Yeah, Leeton not very far from Florence. It's Carbon County. I lived in Lauderdale, and so we were all recruiting Leon. And so I helped some on Leon. We had some other coaches to help, see him help. Leon's mother liked to fish, and she liked to do that kind of stuff. Well, back then, those years, you could sign the conference letter, but there also was a national letter. And if we signed Leon to the conference letter, but we couldn't get him to sign the cotton picking national letter.
Okay.
So what's his name? I'll think of it when I hang up. Was up one of the first minority coaches that really came south. I can't think. He comes down there. He comes down there at Leeton. You can call Leon Ash. He comes down there at Leeton, starts playing cards with him, checkers with him, goofing with the pool room, shooting pool with him. Leeton ain't got anything but a pool room and a church, but we're worried because we know we've got a 10-team league, so we just got a 10-team league, but we've cut the other 9 out. We got the conference letter signed, but we don't have the national letter signed. So we worried. They wasn't gonna be much money passed by. They wasn't gonna be no, if it was, it's $5 or $10. So it wasn't no money. Wasn't no buying much. I wasn't particular. He just there wasn't no such thing as 3 visits and all that kind of crap. We just go in there and see him. So one of the funny things that no nobody ever knew was I found out. I didn't get credit for recruiting Leon. The rest of them, I gave him credit. I found out that Leon brother needed a car, and he lived in Chattanooga. So I had a car. One of my best buddies was a car dealer. So I said, Norman, would you sell Leon Douglas's brother, get Leon Douglas's brother a car at cost? And he said, yeah, I think I can. So I can't remember whether this boy's passed away. He's one of my best friends. We go, and nobody knows it, but we trying to get the brother to tell Leon, come on, sign the cotton picking national letter of intent. Get the thing signed. And so, you got to sign the national letter of intent. Get the national letter of intent, I can get a car at cost. So that's kind of what I pulled. We got the national letter of intent signed. I mean, we got the national letter of intent signed, but that didn't sew it up. Leon didn't even know it. He didn't even know. You could call Leon tonight. He'd say, huh? He wouldn't know it. We got the brother. And so that's kind of the way we got him. Of course, he was a big and he came to Alabama, and they'd say, Leon, he'd stand up, and they'd all holler and scream, about come to Alabama, which was a little bit of a unique thing for Alabama basketball. And so we got him. We had Wendell Hudson was the first we got. Hud was the first one we got, and I don't know if I could take credit for Hud. I worked on him some, but I was up there a lot recruiting Parker's players. They had a kid named Raw Scott who played for Mark, who coached with Mark Godfrey, and he was a good guard. And I was with him. I was with him night and day trying to get him signed. I couldn't get him signed. He wouldn't sign. He almost going to sign. Think he's going to sign. I mean, I was worrying him to death to sign. I was up there every day trying to get him signed. I couldn't get him signed. So I could tell he was getting annoyed with it because me being up here so much, it means that when you're going to sign. So I went to a baseball game. He's going to pitch. I get behind the umpire, behind the fence, right behind the fence. And every time Raw looked down for the sign to pitch it, he'd see the catcher, the umpire, and Wimp right there.
You wore him down.
Yeah, I wore him down. And we got through. He said, that's enough. I had enough. I ain't doing this. No, I just had enough. I'm gonna sign. I had the principal in my pocket. He's dead too. I'm telling you stuff. He was a big card player, and he's a good friend. And if I needed, and all those guys had great. We weren't no big grade deal then. But if I just needed a guy to have a B, if I just really needed for him to have a B when he had a C, Miss Thompson, I think he probably would need a B. So I don't know that I didn't do much of that because Miss Thompson can do what he wanted. He wanted to come to Alabama, but I was in Miss Thompson. So,
well,
we had a player named Enos Watley. Enos Watley was the first guy in the state of Alabama who would look east and throw west.
I remember those passes.
Right,
he was
looked
incredible.
Right at Phillips High School. He looked right and throw the other way. I talked to him occasionally. And of course, we was recruiting him hard. And I would have people go by, and boy, another named Reginald King. I don't want to forget Reginald. And so I would go around trying to see him. And UAB got his sister a job. I think at UAB they got Bartow and them got his sister something. Me and my assistant Leroy McClendon, we're going in now on the official visit. I got the official visit all lined up with his mama. His mama's got a little list of things she'd like to have. I wasn't nothing. $10 for church every Sunday. Wasn't nothing. I still got it. I still got it in there. Well framed it. And it wasn't he was she was and the daddy, when we got there, the daddy was in the front yard working on cars. He ain't going to no cotton picking meeting, me and Leon and the mama. And the mama don't even know about no basketball. She just knows Coach Sanderson from Alabama's in there and so forth and so on. So we all ready to go. Guess what? In 38 years of coaching, he didn't show up for the official visit.
You were there with the
He
parents,
was
but
at
not
a
him.
cotton picking no show.
Oh
Didn't
no.
show. So I don't know what to say. We're going in there with the mama. We done a good job with the mama. We told her everything. Wasn't nothing we missed. And we're walking up the sidewalk, and I'll never forget it. And I said to Leon, how in the name of Pete are we going to get any more when he don't even show up for the official visit? And I was putting the pressure on him, see. And he said, we'll do something, Coach. We'll do, I don't remember what he said. But it was one of them nerve-wracking things. Well, I come to find out from a guy that the statement was made that if they were giving her that job just to get Enmo, that if things didn't go right, they were going to fire her. Well, I kind of put that didn't sound good. See, that didn't sound good.
No.
So I got that out. I said, they tell me they're going to fire your sister. I said, I said, I'd get her a job. I would do something. So, we ended up getting him, and he was a good player. I hired a guy that I didn't know. He was working for a friend of mine, and I thought he was a good recruiter, and I made a mistake on him. And he comes into my office, and he said at the end of his sophomore year, and he says, I think Edemo ought to go pro. I said, what? He said, I think Edemo ought to go pro. I said, go pro? Well, some things came down maybe because Edemo didn't like class. He didn't care anything about going to class. He wasn't here for no basketball class. I mean, not basketball. He wasn't here for no class. But so it was a little bit of a rub there. He's the only one we lost outside of Derek McKee. We lost Enemo after 2 years. I talked to Enemo sometimes, occasionally, and he was on some good teams for us. One team in North Carolina, we should have beaten North Carolina, didn't. But Enemo decided to leave at the end of 2 years.
I hated that too.
He got some money, and I don't know where the money came from. But he got some money. Ain't no money like they're getting today. Ain't nothing. Ain't no money like that. I ain't talking about buying much money, but he got. But they would. But a little bit of money went a long way back then. $10 went a lot further than it goes today. So, we ended up getting him, but then we lost him after 2 years. Then we lost Derek McKee, who was at Mississippi.
Well, speaking of that, there's something I wanted to make sure the listeners understand about the level of consistency that you had during your tenure. So I want to do a shameless plug for you, Coach. So I want to remind everybody that's listening that are not familiar with the Coach Sanderson era. You were the head coach for 12 years. 10 out of 12 years, you went to the NCAA tournament. 6 times you went to the Sweet 16. 9 times out of those 12 years, you played for the SEC tournament title, and 5 times you won it. The level of consistency that you brought to the program during the 80s when I was watching the program, and in the early 90s when I was in school, is what I believe is one of the great things about the history of this program. There's been other eras of greatness too, but I'm going to say that 12-year period was something that I always remember. And what I wanted to ask you is, and this is just my opinion, and I don't know much more than anyone else, not a coach, not a technical expert, but I always felt that these 4 teams that you had, 1982, 1986, 1987, and 1990, that any 4 of those with any just a little bit of luck or different seeding could have gotten to the Final Four. Those 4, I always felt in my heart that they could. I was just wondering how you felt about those 4 teams.
Yeah, I think you're right. We had tough draws.
Yep.
We didn't play, especially the one year that we didn't get great seeds. We had tough draws.
No, terrible seeding by the committee.
Yeah, it was absolutely awful. My last year there, we went all the way to California and beat Arizona. But anyway, all the Miramont, I'll talk about that sometime. So we were getting pretty tough seeds. So we got a 2. And the 86 team, the league was so good, and I don't mind comparing the league to now. The league was better back then. And the reason the league was better back then, the players just as good or better, and nobody ever transferred. Nobody ever left like they do today. There wasn't no new team every year. The league in the 86 was better than the league is today. Not that doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't really have to compare them particularly, but it was. We are playing to go to either play Providence or I believe it was Austin Peay.
That's right. That's the game that went in overtime.
And we won. We're just waiting to see who we're going to play. Providence fouls a guy at the buzzer. If he makes either free throw, the game's over, and we play them. We play them in Louisville, up in Louisville. He missed them both. Providence come back and wins. We go up there and we do a poor job. I mean, it's my fault. We did a poor job of defending the 3, or we didn't defend the 3 very well, or we defended pretty good at times, and they made everything a shot.
They were just hot that day.
Yeah, they beat us. We ended up having to play Providence. I thought we were ready to play. Obviously, we weren't very ready defensively, and we found a Providence team that had relied on the 3. They shot the lights out of it, killed us, and so we lost that game. One of our better teams. We got tough draws. I guess I'm known as the guy who got us to the Sweet 16 and couldn't get by that, and I am to some degree. We had some awfully tough with North Carolina. At North Carolina State was a game that we should have won. We deserved to win that game. We did not win the game. We should have. We got beat by 5, and we were playing at North Carolina State. I don't remember the other places we went. What we did with our team was we had a 10-team league. The 76 team, the 86 team, won 8 out of 9 on the road, which is almost unbelievable back then. Beat Kentucky up there, won 8 out of 9 on the road. Finished 16-2, got beat by Kentucky at home, and lost on the last shot at Florida.
That was an overtime game too.
Yeah, I don't know how I can remember all this. For some reason, I'm able to, I guess. it was just a deal where my battery's got to go a little bit further. So we had great teams. We got to the 16, couldn't get back. We back then, the round robin was important if you won the league. It wasn't talked about as much. The tournament had come into play, and it was a big deal. We got a ring. We would get a ring if we wanted to tournament. All kids like rings. You were considered back in those days the champion of the SEC if you won the tournament. Okay, people are listening to this show are saying it shouldn't be that way. It should be the round robin. I'm not arguing that with anybody. Probably if you play everybody in your league twice, which we did, they don't do that now. We played everybody in the league, 10 teams. So that means we played 16. We played a 16 game schedule, 10, 18 game
That's right.
schedule. Same thing they're going to do this year, 18 games. And we played everybody home and home. When I first went to Alabama, we played Saturday, Monday, and we drove a bus from Tuscaloosa to play Tennessee and Knoxville and on up to Kentucky, play Kentucky and Kentucky. You got no chance. We didn't have the money to spend for a plane. So we took a bus, and all those things were ridiculous, but we did. And it was the 10-team league, but with the thoughts of the tournament being the champions, we did a good job of getting our teams ready to play. We emphasized that. We added a little bit of offense to our team that had been scouted all year. We got our team to play hard, I felt like. And I thought we played hard in the games that we lost, but we got to the point to where it meant a lot to us. You know, the SEC tournament is sort of around spring holidays.
Yep.
And if you're not careful, your players will be thinking, if we get beat, we can be with our girlfriends in Florida for a 5-day period. So it was a little bit scary to be darn sure that you got your team ready to play. And for whatever reason, we had good players, very good players. And the success to winning games is to have as good or better players than your opponent and get them to play hard. You can say that first sentence, but if you don't get them to play hard, and I had a game or two where outside of the tournament, NCAA tournament, that we didn't play as hard as we should. So we won in Atlanta, beat LSU. We won in Orlando. We won in Knoxville. We won in Nashville. We won in Lexington. We never won in Birmingham. We got to the finals 3 times in Birmingham against Georgia, Kentucky,
and Auburn.
Auburn.
Yep, that was overtime. That was overtime.
Oh, the Auburn game, whatever.
That one hurts me to this day.
Yeah,
the 85 overtime game.
Yeah. So anyway, we got where we put a lot of emphasis, a lot of talk about us being so good, being a tournament team, and it just captivated and being that kind of team every year. Everybody's always what's Alabama going to do in the tournament. So we sort of became a tournament team. So as it pointed out, in the 12 years that I had the job, we got to the final game 9 times and won it 5 times. You can look back on it and see where we could have won it. Should have won it about 7, but we didn't. And it was a captivating deal. So, we got in the NCAA tournament because of winning, but I think, there wasn't as many teams going. It was harder to go back then. Everybody was good. There was a lot of leagues. You had to really, be darn sure that you got in the league. My first year, we did not get in there. And then one other year, we did not get in there. We got a bunch of people hurt my first year, but we did. They sent us to the NIT and they tried to get rid of us. And they did everything they could to get rid of us. They sent it. play, I forget where, and in the end they send us to St. John's. Lou Carnesecca, the great coach at St. John's. We played him, and we beat St. John's at St. John's. They send us to Duke, and we get beat by Duke with two players on the bench that had been starting for us. So they got rid of us. Back then, they tried to get rid of you if you by sending you to somebody's home game. They always have it. We had it. There were some games before I got the job. Some teams where you played all the games in New York at Madison Square Garden. And,
Yeah. The NIT.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we beat and if you played a Kentucky team, you better play good because you're playing step up. You're playing them and the two officials. So they didn't need for a team sponsored by the NIT to lose out when nobody came. We played Manhattan one time, beat them on the last shot of the game. Glenn Garrett made the shot. Yeah, made the shot to win the game. And we got in the Final Four a couple of times, but that was about it. So,
well, if I remember correctly, during your 12 years, you were right. The only 2 years that you didn't make the NCAA tournament was the end of the 81 season and the end of the 88 season. What I wanted to ask you, there's a couple of questions I wanted to ask you, and then we can wrap everything up. But one thing I wanted to ask you about the NCAA tournament. I know from a fan perspective, it makes it exciting from television and fans. It's a one and done deal. But from a coaching perspective, that's got to frustrate the heck out of you, especially when deep down you have the better team and you just had a bad night.
Yeah. You talking me NCAA?
Yes, in the NCAA tournament. That's correct.
I don't think that people realize when you get a tough draw how hard it is to get to the Final 16. I mean, we played Arizona, and then we played VCU. David Hobbs was assistant coach on that team. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, two great wins. We played. I don't know all. I can't remember now, but you can look at what you can keep up with better than I do. But we played some really hard games in those first two games to get to the 16. I mean, it would be because they always expect us to win that game. They always say Alabama's at the Final 16 for the third straight, that kind of stuff. And then they cut us up because we got beat. But we had some tough games to win, and everybody does. And so I'm not doing this podcast to make excuses at all. We were very fortunate to get to the Final 16 6 times, and 6 out of 12 years is quite unbelievable, really. And to get in that 10 out of 12 years was great. Unfortunately, we didn't get certainly as far as the Final Four team did this year.
Well, and I think, and again, I'm not trying to disparage anything from 2004 and even this past season, but you can see it takes luck, timing, getting hot at the right time, and the right matchups to be able to get through and navigate that. Because if all it takes is one bad matchup or one off night, and it doesn't matter how good you are, one game situation, you go home.
Yeah, we held Michael Jordan to 13, I believe it was. Because I know Watley and he were on the same team. Watley used to kid him all the time about.
That's right. They were in the Bulls together for a year.
So we held him, and we should have won that game. I can't even think of the places that we played and lost, but the SEC tournament. The funny part about it, we won it everywhere except at home.
Except in Birmingham.
Home. Yeah, we got beat 3 times in the finals. So. It was a lot of good players who played hard. There were a lot of good players in the state. The controversy between Gene Bartow and Somewhat Sunny and myself was there. The newspapers had an opportunity to write up anything bad I said. If you had to pick out fair-haired boys, fair-haired coaches, probably best coaches or whatever, you probably start with Gene because he had won. I had just saw today that Bill Walton passed away.
Yeah, I saw that. That was sad.
I had Bill Walton. I did a clinic, and I got the biggest kick out of Bill Walton because it pleased me. And so I was getting Bill Walton to speak at a clinic. We got to be friends, and he came in, and you could look this up. He played. He played. It was either UAB or whoever Gene had Memphis, I believe, and he either missed one shot or no shots. And he started talking about that defense they had, laughing, making fun of it. Of course, I was loving it when he got up there to speak about how bad their defense. But I know you're gonna look it up after I hang up. But he either scored 23, shot it 12 times and made 11. You'll look it up and see it next time I see you. You'll tell me what it was. But he came in and bragged about that. Bless his heart, he was quite a different guy, and he was some guy, but he was a guy that nobody understood very much. But he was some player, and he did a good job coming in to Birmingham and speaking for him.
Well, Coach, I've got one last important question, and it was something that when I read the book, I thought I would find in the book, but unless I missed it, I never saw the answer to this one question that I've had. So to me, what I would like to ask you is the final question is, where did the plaid sport coats come from, and when did it start? Because what I want to say is this: everyone knows that Alabama football is synonymous with houndstooth, and I dare say that everyone says the same thing, that Alabama basketball is synonymous with plaid. So, is there a hidden story behind the sports?
It's really not. I just want to thank. I want to thank Alabama Bryant Museum for putting it in there the other day, a picture of our stuff and a little bit about Alabama basketball, and they came by and got one of my plaid sport coats and put in there, and I was pleased with that. Olivia did a good job with that. Arnold, I think it is. I wore a plaid sport coat, and I don't know why. And I read something about it. Read something about me wearing a plaid sport coat.
Yeah.
And I wore it again. And they said something else about it. And we need an interest. We need fans. We need home court advantage. And it had gotten to where it was kind of popular. I was going over to see a kid in Georgia. Can't think of his name. And we got there. Oh, I called the mother. And I said, can we see so-and-so, so-and-so? She said, yeah, you can come over, but you got to wear one of those plaid sport coats.
Oh, that's funny.
So I said, yes, ma'am, I will. One more, we go down to Florida. This guy went to the pros, can't think of his name. Go down to Florida. I got plaid sport coat on. It's hot. And we're in there, we talking and all that. And I take it off. And the little boy's sister comes over there and says, could I touch it? I said, yeah, you touch it. So she touched it. So the funny part about that plaid thing, that houndstooth hat, I've got one of them Coach Brian had. He sat on our bench when I was assistant coach in New York. Sonny Weblum, I'm not pronouncing that quite right, but it was the head guy of the New York Jets. Jets or Giants? Jets, I think. I think it's Jets. He gave Coach one of those hats.
Oh.
Yeah. And when Coach came back, he had that hat on. Everybody saw it. It's kind of like the hat Nick has on now when he plays golf. Mm-hmm. And so he starts getting those things done. Not to the point that you would today. You could make a fortune out of them today. And but he got those, and I got a couple of them. I gave the McCullough one, who was a close friend of Coach Price. I could talk about him a lot because I was there under 4 ADs and four new head football coaches. So when they talk about Coach leaving this year and what went on, what didn't go on, I saw it 4 times, and it was always quite quite unique. We had some special wins, and then I'll close. We had a special win, even if you want to call them special. We won the SEC tournament and the SEC championship at Kentucky, which was a
1982.
special win, 48-46. We blew them out, 48-46. I won't go into what happened. And then we are in California, and we're going to play Southern Cal, and then we're going to play Southern Cal, who was really good. And Bob Boyd was the coach. He coached at Mississippi State. He was tough. Boy, he was really good. Southern Cal and Georgetown, Patrick Ewing. And we went out there and won both those games. It's almost against the rules to go out there and beat Southern Cal to Southern Cal. You can't hardly do it. We did it. We come back home and we're going to play UCLA, who's #1 team in the nation, in a big game. Vital, all the big shots going to be. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm out in the hall getting a drink of water. To the double doors comes Coach Brown. Never been in my office. Always go to his. Came in, sat down on my couch. I went and got a chair and sat down and talked to him. He started talking about a game he lost against Georgia, about how he didn't do a very good job disciplining and making Snake stable to behave. Just different stuff. That's on Sunday. On Monday night, he gets sick. On Tuesday, he gets sicker. He probably dies Tuesday night. I'm not sure whether it's Tuesday night or when it was. We're down there practicing. We're going to play UCLA, and we are practicing. They come down, and they say to me, they're fixing to announce that Coach Brown has passed away. I said, wow, woo. I said, I hate that so bad, and it's terrible. And I said, I got it. It was secondary, but I got to figure out what we need to do about this UCLA game. So I don't know if I went right after practice. I probably did, because we were going to leave on Thursday and play the game on Saturday. But I called Paul Jr. and I said, we're supposed to play UCLA, #1 team in the nation. And his answer was, Papa would have wanted you to play. So we did, went out. We saw the service. We saw the funeral procession that went through Centerville, little towns, all the way to Birmingham to the burial. And a very emotional thing. And we didn't go out to win the game for Coach Brown or anything like that. So we just went out to play. And we got 3 baseball guys who were good officials called the game, and we got a fair call. The game called fairly. I thought very fairly out there. They got it mixed up on the clock, and we ended up winning the game. And
I would dare say that that's one of the most monumental victories in Alabama basketball history.
Yeah.
That was not associated with any championship or anything like that,
Right.
but was needed.
Yeah.
Was needed more than ever, given the circumstances of what the Alabama
Yeah.
nation was going through at the time.
We got people watching this tonight and watching it when you get through doing it. They were so young they don't even know it. They don't even remember it. But for people like you, you're probably the best basketball guy in America. Keep up with it. Alabama basketball better than anybody in America. So it was a special time. It was a good win. It was an exciting time. The funny part about it, so stupid. I did some stupid things. I guess I'm stupid. We had a kid named Terry Williams on our team who really played. He burned it up against Georgetown and Southern Cal. Shot the lights out. There was a buddy of mine who was assistant at UCLA. He came and scouted us twice. We come back, and I can't even remember. But I get into it with Terry, or something happens, I suspend him.
Mm.
Well, the guy watching the game, for us, like, he suspends Terry Williams. He got 20 something each game. He ain't gonna play in that game. That's where I was. On top of that, I took Terry with the team in street clothes,
Oh,
and I made him sit on the bench in street clothes. So, and then we win the game. And so we had a reunion not long ago, and Terry came back. I don't think he's in love with me, but he came back, and but to do that was kind of the way I did things. That's just kind of the way I suspended Robert Ory for the Vanderbilt game, for the opening game at Vanderbilt for the SEC tournament, and I suspended him for one game. We got into it, and Philip Pearson, who was on that team, a friend of and coach at Georgia and so forth, played for me. He said they had bets the next game about what time I'd put Robert in the game. When we played Auburn the second game.
oh,
We opened up with Florida. Go get this. We opened up with Florida. We're down 15 or 16 at the half. Everybody in the dressing room is mad at everybody else, and I'm mad at myself. Why the crap did I do that? I should have done something. And you don't need to suspend them. You need to make them behave and get them straight. And we came back the second half and beat them. Lon Kruger was a coach. He coached, great coach. He coached it in the pros. And
he got Florida to Final Four.
Yeah, and we played them, and then we played Auburn, and we were great against Auburn. And then we had to play Tennessee right there, and we clobbered Tennessee. Yeah,
I remember that too. Real quickly to go back again to the UCLA game. I was 13 when all that went down, and I remember in junior high, the principal came on and announced over the PA system when Coach Bryant had passed away, and you could have heard a pin drop in our high school. And then I remember keeping up with the UCLA game. I believe it was on a Friday night because the funeral was that afternoon or early midday, and then you guys played later that night. I remember all the circumstances and all that. Yeah, I remember when all that happened, and that was
Coach
just
Bryant's body.
Rough time.
They took Coach Bryant's body down through Centerville and all the little towns leading into the cemetery, and people would have flags, Alabama stuff, and all that kind of stuff. And it was such that it was on television, national television. We watched it from the hotel in California. So those are some heck of stories of a lot of different things that happened. I hadn't told all those. I hadn't told those in a long time.
Well, Coach, I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Well, I want to thank you for what you do for Alabama basketball and what you did for me, and what you go back and look at. I always laugh at when people say, "I was ever new coach." I said, "Well, that means you're old." So
that's me. So, I'm right there.
But I appreciate what you do, and I'd be happy to do it. Anything you want me to do, I'm glad to do it.
Yeah. Well, again, Coach, it was an honor, and as I said, there was no one else that we wanted to invite as the first guest for this summer podcast series.
When it comes on, call me and let me know.
I will. I'll let you know after it's edited and when we publish it. But again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you've done for me these last 7 months too, by the way. I really appreciate it.
Well, glad to do it. You deserve it. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.